we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome to the Healing Power of Plant Foods cooking class. I'm April, and in the kitchen with me tonight is Kayla, and we're super excited to have you guys here tonight. If you are looking to strengthen your immune system, if you want to increase longevity, decrease risk of disease, reverse disease if you have it, and achieve and maintain your ideal weight, you're in the right place. There truly is healing power in plant foods, and they are loaded, and that's because they are loaded with thousands of micronutrients that are absolutely critical for your health. We need to get these foods into our diet. These micronutrients that are so rich in plant foods are only in plant foods, so we need to be eating a lot of plant foods. And a lot of the diseases and problems that we have relating to the foods, it's dose dependent, and so the more of these foods you eat, the better. So my message to you tonight is eat more. How often do you hear that? Eat more whole foods. Fruits, vegetables, whole grains, beans, nuts, and seeds. The more, the better. And today we've got a holiday meal going, and with a loaf that needs to get in the oven. So I'm just going to go ahead and get started. Who's here for the first time? I see a lot of new faces, and I see a few guys, which is not always common. So welcome. It's great to have all of you here. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. I need my chopper. If you grab that for me. We're going to start off with the loaf. Like I said, I need to get that going in the pan and cooking. So let's see. We've got a holiday menu today. We've got a lentil loaf, and we've got some mushroom gravy and some mashed potatoes with cauliflower mashed potatoes, actually, and pumpkin pie, and we've got a fruit salad. So, all right, thanks. I'm going to start off with an onion, and onions are powerful anti-cancer foods. They have organosulfur compounds, and we experience those every time we cut that onion open. Our eyes start to water, we want to cry. Those are great compounds. They kill cancer cells, basically. In a large European study with 10 countries, people who ate the most onions had 60 to 70% less risk of cancers of all types, all cancers across the board. And this little chopper that I'm using tonight, it's called the Vidalia Chop Wizard, and it's a great kitchen tool. It's one of my favorite kitchen tools. They don't pay me to say that. You just get them on Amazon. You used to be able to get them in Bed Bath & Beyond, but they've discontinued carrying them. They also decrease inflammation throughout the body, decreasing risk of heart disease, diabetes. All right, I'm just going to put those in my pan. And I don't have anything in the bottom of my pan. I don't have any spray or oil or broth or anything like that. I am just using the dry pan sauteing for now. I don't use oil ever. Oil is 120 calories of pure fat. It's the highest calorie, lowest nutrient food that we consume. It increases inflammation, increases risk of heart disease. It stiffens your blood vessels. Yes, olive oil. Yes, coconut oil. Yes, canola oil. And I don't want you to trust me. I want you to go online to Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn. He's the director of preventive cardiology at the Cleveland Clinic, and he has a 98% success rate of reversing his patients' heart disease. And his patients are on the list for bypass surgery. I mean, they are in critical condition, and they decide that they want to go the dietary route, and he takes them on, and like I say, 98% success rate. He tells them absolutely no oil, because oil damages your endothelial cells that line the inner lining of your artery, and slow blood flow up to 40% within 4 hours of consumption. People that eat a high oil meal or a meal with olive oil, it shuts down a production called nitric oxide production, which is the nitric oxide is released into your blood vessels, and that keeps your blood vessels like Teflon. We all know what Teflon is, like nice and smooth. Things slide across it easily. When you put oil into your meal and eat it, put it into your body, you make your arteries more stiff and sluggish. That blood sluggish, your blood vessel lining isn't quite as slick. Okay, so we don't have anything in here, and this is a pretty good pan, which is also helpful. If you've got a pan that's not quite of a thick bottom and it starts to stick, you just get a little bit of water or broth, or a little bit of tomato juice or something, like if you're going to do like a tomato-based dish, that you could use that. We're going to go ahead and add our garlic, and I've got 2 cloves of chopped garlic. Garlic is from the allium family, and they have those same compounds like our onion, those anti-cancer compounds. Garlic's even more powerful. We want to get a little bit of both in every day if we can. I'm just chopping some celery. We want 4 stalks of celery. By the way, celery, one thing that I like to make sure people understand is we don't need to worry about protein anymore, okay? We can stop worrying about protein. There is protein in everything. In fact, celery, I don't know what happened to my sheet that told the amount of celery, but celery has like 31% protein. Who would have thought? I was really surprised. So if you're concerned about protein and the foods that contain protein, I've got a handout up there. I don't know if you guys have all gotten your handouts from the table up there. There's a green one that is a protein chart, and it tells you the percentage of protein per pound. And of course, you're not going to eat a pound of celery or a pound of potatoes or whatever. You might eat a pound of potatoes. But the percentage is going to be the same no matter what you're using. You know what I'm saying? If you're using a cup, it's still going to be 31% protein. Celery, let's see if I was right on that. Oh, I was wrong on that. Celery is 17% protein. I knew it was pretty high. I mean, that's pretty high for celery. Who would have thought? So I'm chopping up this celery, and I'm going to just go ahead and add that to my pan. Because the things are, excuse me, the fruits we're putting in here is kind of like your stuffing. It's going to have, this loaf has a little bit of a stuffing flavor. Much healthier option though. By the way, if you didn't, I've got a sign-up sheet up here at the front. If you could make sure you sign that before you leave tonight. That way you kind of keep an idea of who is here. Okay, we're still good on the bottom of our pan. It's not sticking at all. And again, if it starts to stick, we just put a little bit of water, a little bit of tamari, a little bit of soy sauce, a little bit of something, a little bit of liquid. But usually when you've got celery, and I'm going to add some mushrooms here in a second, when you've got that going, you've got a lot of moisture coming from those foods so that it's not going to stick. Then we are going to throw in some mushrooms, and this is about 3 cups of the baby bellas that you can get pretty much anywhere. I get them at Costco, the big tubs. But this is about 3 cups, and I've chopped them all with my chopper. So just a few things about mushrooms that are so amazing. They contain an estrogen blocker that keeps estrogen levels low. That's important for women, especially if you've got a family history of breast cancer. They are angiogenesis inhibitors. Cancer needs to be able to spread. It wants to spread, it wants to grow, and that's called angiogenesis. And mushrooms contain angiogenesis inhibitors. Let's see, it stimulates and regulates immune function. We're all concerned about our immune system this time of year. Cold and flu season's coming along. They contain 22 proteins. Protein, again, mushrooms that lower cholesterol and blood pressure at the same time. They function like probiotics. Good way to build your gut microbiome, your good bacteria, is to eat mushrooms. Decreases inflammation in the digestive tract. So if you have any digestive issues, it's going to feed your gut, but it's also going to decrease inflammation. Okay, we're going to go ahead and put our mushrooms in. 3 cups of chopped mushrooms. Mushrooms have a ergothioneine, which protects your brain from oxidation. Scientists believe we get about 20, let's see, that number has left me. They believe we get 10,000 oxidative hits a day. So do you guys know what oxidation is? When we cut up an apple and we leave it sitting on the counter and we go back and eat it and it's a little bit brown, that's oxidation. Same with resting, that's oxidation. And when we put lemon on that, it's an antioxidant, so it keeps it from turning brown. Well, imagine your cells in your body getting brown from oxidation. We get, like I say, we get lots of oxidative hits a day. When we eat and digest food, oxidation happens. When we are exposed to carcinogens, we have oxidation. We have oxidation all day. That's why we need to eat lots of antioxidants. And the foods with the highest are the darkest in color. Okay, we're going to just let that go a little bit longer. We want to get these veggies nice Not nice and soft, but fairly soft. Okay, then we're going to add our seasonings. And I've got a holiday herb mix, and the recipe is on your recipe sheet. Can't remember if it's right under your loaf recipe, actually. There's some sage and thyme and marjoram and can't remember what all, but we're just going to add that. Thank you. All right, and then let's see, we're going to go ahead and add our Kirkland no salt seasoning along with our onion powder, garlic powder. Okay, you can use any kind of no salt seasoning you want. You could use a salt seasoning too if you wanted. I just use a no salt seasoning and then I add the salt that I want to add. I like to control the amount of salt that I put in because I like to use like real salt, Celtic salt, some kind of sea salt rather than the salt that's in a lot of the seasonings. So the Kirkland brand is just obviously a Costco brand. Mrs. Dash is another one of my favorites, but I like this Kirkland in this particular dish. So there's 2 tablespoons. Yes, 2 tablespoons of that and 2 teaspoons of onion powder. And we've already got an onion in here, but I like to add the onion powder because it's more concentrated flavor and just adds some nice flavor to this dish. By the way, I love questions, so if you have any questions, it oftentimes makes me remember something that I want to talk about that I might have forgot. Yes?
I noticed on several of the recipes you have dates, and I'm curious, I'm a big medjool date fan. Is that too sweet for these recipes?
Well, no. You would just use, like, if I'm using 10 dates, I would just use maybe 4 or 5 medjools, like half, because they're about twice as big. So yeah, I'm a big fan of dates. I use them in most all of my dessert recipes. And I've also discovered the use of dried figs as well, and they work very well as well. A little bit different flavor. Yes.
Your no salt seasoning, is that because you're trying to dodge salt?
I like to, yeah. I want to limit it. I want to be careful with the amount that I'm using. I'm not opposed to using salt. I don't want to go completely salt free, but you know, unless I had some real bad high blood pressure, then I would probably be more concerned about that. But I don't. So yeah, I think we need a little bit of salt, especially living here in the desert when it's hot, although it's not hot right now. But okay, and then I'm going to add my tamari. This is 3 tablespoons of tamari, and we've got 2 tablespoons of balsamic vinegar. So I'm just going to add those. And again, that was something that I could have added. You know, if it started to stick and didn't want to add water, I could add the tamari or the Bragg's aminos. Yes? Yes. It's just what I've used. She was just asking about tamari and soy sauce, if they were the same. I mean, they're basically the same. I think this is a low sodium soy sauce tamari, so. Okay, from here we are going to, let's see, we're going to turn that baby off, and I forgot to bring my pastry cutter. Oh, shoot. We might have to use a fork. Okay. Where's that? Oh, there it is right there. I'm going to use that. Okay, so this is done. So we're going to go ahead and just put this in this pan right here, because we're going to add everything else to it. There's that pan too. Even a big fork would work, and even a small fork will work. Okay, then we're going to add everything else. I'm going to add a half a cup of rolled oats. These are just regular rolled oats. And I'm going to add some parsley. I could have added that when I was cooking, but I didn't think about it. But we're going to add a half a cup of parsley. And I'm going to add some black rice. And this is just a wild rice, black rice, any kind of black wild rice. And you can use long grain, brown rice or short grain brown rice if you wanted. But I really like the dark wild rice in this. It gives it a very earthy flavor. It just really adds to the dish. So this is pre-cooked. I've already cooked this ahead of time. You just boil double the amount of water to the amount of rice, and then just bring that to a boil and cook it till it's done. And then we're going to add our lentils. Lentils are in, these are cooked as well. Again, same thing, about triple the water on these. Cook them until they're tender, and they are a super high protein legume. We want to eat more beans, peas, and lentils. Super healthy food. In fact, I'll tell you a few things about lentils and why they're so good for us. They're 20 to 37% protein, for one. People like to worry about protein, but again, don't worry about protein anymore. They're high in complex carbohydrates. Don't worry about carbohydrates. We need to eat carbohydrates. We need to eat a lot of carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are like, to our body, are like gas to your car. If you're on a low carb diet, you're on a low energy diet. You're also starving your microbiome, your good bacteria, if you're on a low carb diet. High fiber decreases inflammation, helps to remove cholesterol and other fats out of the body. It feeds your gut bacteria, promotes good bacteria, and decreases bad bacteria. Legumes contain resistant starch. Resistant starch is a fermentable carbohydrate that goes into your large intestine, ferments, it feeds your microbiome. They produce short-chain fatty acids that create all kinds of goodness throughout your body. Stabilize blood sugar, lowers blood pressure and lowers cholesterol, softens stool and helps with bowel regularity. That's beans. And if you have a problem with beans, creating gas and that kind of thing, you want to go easy. If you're not used to eating a lot of beans and you want to start adding beans into your diet every day, which is a really good idea. One study showed that people that ate 2 cups of beans or 1 cup of beans twice a week cut the risk of colon cancer in half. Colon cancer is the one of the highest cancer killers in our country. I'm using a fork to kind of mash this all up because I forgot my pastry cutter. So I would recommend using your pastry cutter if you've got one. But I'm just kind of mashing things up and getting the lentils kind of mushed so we can put this in the pan and so it kind of sticks together a little bit. Oh, people always say, what about lectins? Lectins are bad, aren't they? No, they're anti-cancer compounds. Lectins are good for you. In fact, there's lectins in many plant foods. There's lectins in beans, but we cook them out. When we cook the beans, we're cooking out the lectins, and what we need, the anti-cancer benefits of them, there's just a small amount. So we don't need to, again, we don't need to worry about lectins. What's the other one that everybody's so worried about? Lectins, and there's one more that's in grains. Anyway, Oh, well, gluten's an issue, but there's also another one, another compound that people like to worry about. But anyway, if it's a whole food, it's good for you. Whole plant foods are all good for you. Okay. It's best to do this with the pastry cutter, but this will work just fine. It's good for building the muscles, right? And it's going to all taste the same anyway. Okay. Oh, I forgot the pumpkin seeds. Okay, so we want 1/2 cup of either chopped walnuts, chopped pecans, some kind of a chopped nuts. Preferably walnuts or pecans are best, but I'm going to use pumpkin seeds. I often have people with nut allergies in my classes. I am going to use some nuts so earlier in this, but at least this will be nut-free. Anybody have a problem with nuts? Okay, good. Anyway, I love pumpkin seeds. I prefer actually pumpkin seeds in this. Seeds are super higher in minerals, and they are high in, pumpkin seeds in particular, are high in zinc and iron. If you have iron poor blood, low iron, eat some pumpkin seeds and combine it with some citrus. Lemon juice, lime juice, orange juice. Citrus will help increase your absorption of the iron. All right. 6, 7, 6. We'll get this in the oven by 620, so that should be good. We want to be eating it by the time I don't want you guys here till 9 o'clock. So, okay, we're going to go ahead and put this in our pan. And what I do, if I'm doing this for a potluck or like a real dinner type situation where I'm going to be serving it on the table or on a buffet, I like to put some parchment paper in the bottom. And when it's done, I'll pull it out of the oven, let it cool, and then I break it away from the sides and flip it and put it on a platter so it's upside down, and then cover it with this mushroom gravy that I'm going to be making. Makes really nice presentation, and it works really nicely. But we're just going to serve it right out of here because this is going to come out of the oven probably right about the time we're going to eat, and it's going to be hot and probably won't hold together very well because it's good to let it cool. It's actually really good to let it cool and then reheat it. It'll hold together really well, and the flavors kind of meld, and it's just really good. So it's all these types of, all plant dishes, it seems like they're always better the next day. So you can make your Thanksgiving, your holiday meal the day before. How great is that? Then you can enjoy the day. Okay, just gonna press that down in there just really nice like that. Hope I haven't forgot anything. I didn't even look at my recipe, but everything's gone, so we should be good. I've been doing cooking classes since 2005, and I've been eating a whole food plant-based diet since 1991. So, and I changed my diet because I watched my family deteriorate and get diseases and heart disease, diabetes, cancer. Both my parents died of cancer, and I decided a long time ago I didn't want to go down that road. Set kitchen timer. We want 30 minutes. 30 minutes. Start. Is that right? Yes, that's right. Okay. So yeah, a long time ago I decided that I wanted to take a different path than the rest of my family did, and just kind of got looking. Do we need to turn that off? Okay. Decided that I wanted to do something different than the rest of my family. I knew that there was something that you could do to decrease what many say is your genetic destiny. And so I started looking. I'm going to throw this garlic in. I'm going to put 4 cloves of garlic in with our steamed cauliflower. This is the cauliflower that we're doing for the mashed potatoes, and I'll talk a little bit about that later. But it's cauliflower rice, and I'm just thawing it, cooking it in the pan, and I'm going to throw in the 4 cloves of garlic with that. Okay, we're going to move over to our pumpkin pie. And I'll need that pan for the gravy just when you get a minute. I don't need it now, but. So we'll move over here to my food processor. I believe that a good healthy diet deserves some desserts, but desserts need to be desserts. It's not something we have every day. My desserts are still pretty high sugar. Some of them are pretty high fat, although tonight this is very low fat. But desserts are a treat. I used to think that I could eat them every day, and I ended up with some food sensitivities to some of the foods that I used, nuts, number one, and dates. So anyway, you just want to, again, we want to treat desserts as desserts. These are just healthier. These aren't going to sabotage your weight loss goals, your health goals. They're all super good, and they're good for you. Okay, so this is a pie that we're doing tonight, and I'm going to start off with the crust. I'm super excited about this crust because I used to do, all my pies in the past have been a nut, date, oat crust, and then the pie filling oftentimes has some nuts in it. Totally nut-free, totally super healthy, low fat, and I think really good. The crust holds together better. Okay, so I'm going to add 2 cups of rolled oats. These are gluten-free, by the way. All the oats I'm using tonight are gluten-free. I often have people that are sensitive to gluten that come. Going to put our oats in there. Oh, yes. I gotta keep things straight. I got too much going on here. So I got our oats in there. I'm going to go ahead and put my dates, and my dates have been soaking in a 1/4 cup of water. Actually, I'm wrong. I'm going to go ahead and I knew something was not quite right. I got to blend up first my banana and my dates first. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and put those in here. And then I'm going to put a banana, and your banana doesn't need to be spotted banana. We just want something to add some moisture, a little bit of sweetness, and just to kind of help this stick together. And then we're going to put about a teaspoon of vanilla. I'm just going to kind of guess on that. And that's all for now. I'm just going to go ahead and grind this up, just kind of pulse it at first. So we want to use whole food sweeteners instead of our processed sugars. Honey's okay, a little bit of honey. The problem with sugars is the dose. We Americans like our sweet foods, we like our desserts, and we get in trouble because of it. And so we want to get our sugars from whole foods. Dates, dried fruits are good. Eaten limited. And then, of course, our fruit. Love the fruits during the summer. I don't feel like I even need dessert during the summer because it's growing on the trees so plentifully. Okay, and then we're going to add our oats. I want to keep these oats somewhat with a little bit of texture still. I don't want to grind them down to flour. And you could put all this in together and grind it up and it'd be fine. It might be a little bit harder to put in your pan though, and I'll be doing that here in a second. It's relatively easy. Okay, so I'm just going to pulse this just to kind of get it all mixed in. In fact, okay, so if you don't have a good, strong, food processor, this is a pretty good one. This is a KitchenAid. You may want to blend your dates and your water. And by the way, the reason I soak them is so that they blend down creamy. So especially if you've got a blender or food processor that's not super strong, you're going to want to soak them, make those dates nice and soft. If you put dry dates in with some water in your blender, it's going to just clang all over the place and they're not going to get blended up. You want to soak them. Okay, so can't remember what I was saying, but anyway. Oh yeah, that's what I was going to say. So you can dump your cream, your date, water, banana cream, right, with the vanilla. You can dump that in a bowl, add your oats, and just stir it all together. Works great. This is just a little bit easier because you really don't need to grind down those oats. We want to keep our grains whole if we can, and I realize this is dessert, so we can not do everything perfect when we're doing dessert, but the less we grind down our grains, the better. Ground grains increase the surface area of the plant, which makes those sugars that are in grains much more bioavailable. They raise your blood sugar much easier when they're in flour form, like breads. Whole wheat bread, by the way, raises blood glucose almost as much as white flour, just because it's usually ground down very fine. Not that we can't ever have whole wheat bread, of course we can, and I'm going to use that so we don't need to wash that. So I'll be using it right away. So, in fact, I'll just put that right back in there. Okay, and then we're just going to kind of push this around on your pie pan. And we're just going to kind of push it up along the side. So much easier than grandma's grandma's crust recipe, right? That you roll out, that's full of lard or butter or whatever. You got to roll it out and do all that. By the way, whole grains contain that resistant starch that feeds your gut microbiome, kind of like the beans have resistant starch. Whole grains stabilize your blood sugar. They have great benefits for cholesterol, lowering cholesterol, especially oats. You know, they say to eat oatmeal when you have high cholesterol. But all whole grains are good for that. Decreases inflammation. Okay. Now we're going to bake this. You want to, I just actually came up with this pie just about a month ago. And I haven't tried to fill it and bake it with the pie, you know, like bake the whole thing. This is pretty soft and mushy. I'm afraid it would be just like this when you took it out of the oven if you didn't bake it first. So, and not that it would be bad, it just wouldn't be nice and like a crust. So we're going to go ahead and put that in the oven at 300 for 20 minutes. Let's see, kitchen timer. We'll see how this, hopefully, okay. Okay, and then we're going to go over to the inside of our pie, our pumpkin part of the pie. Not pumpkin, we're doing sweet potato pie tonight. I keep thinking it's pumpkin pie. It's Thanksgiving. We do pumpkin pie Thanksgiving, right? I did pumpkin pie last year, and I like to kind of alternate when I do my classes. I like to alternate and do different stuff. So we're doing sweet potato pie this year, this year. But you can do this very same idea with pumpkin. Yes?
So over your, since 91 and teaching knowledge, you've influenced probably a lot of people that have transitioned into a whole food plant-based. What's maybe top 3 responses that you get from people who have transitioned to this type of a diet, whether it's energy or what's the typical response that you get from people that do switch over to this?
Typical response for people that switch to a whole food plant-based diet, probably lowering their medications and completely getting off medications. I had a gentleman that come to my class, this is years ago, over the kitchen corner before they closed. He came, he's like 70, in his 70s, and he came and he'd sit there and he'd kind of look at me like, what are you talking about, lady? You know, to some of the stuff I was saying. But he kept coming and kept coming and kept going. Well, lo and behold, months later, he's still coming. He comes to my class and he's like, I'm off my diabetes medication. I've lowered my cholesterol medication. I'm walking 20 miles a day because I don't know what to do with the energy I have. I was like, you're awesome. Thank you for sharing that. I mean, I was like, oh, whoa. So yeah, yes.
I was going to vouch for you on that. I went vegan for plant-based 7 years ago and went off of 5 big medications, and then I don't take any medications at all. Haven't for 7 years, and my cholesterol went from 255 to 195.
Nice. Congratulations. That is awesome. That's the stories I love to hear. And it just happens. Your body just responds to all these plant foods. It's just what it wants. So, any other testimonials?
My husband, the doctor wanted to put him on high blood pressure medication. He didn't want to do it, so I said, then let me cook whole food, plant-based food for you. And we just were in the doctor, and his blood pressure was 121.
121 cholesterol.
Over
Wow.
72, or his blood pressure.
That's amazing.
So it's completely been controlled with diet.
Wonderful. That's great. It just happens.
He's 74 and plays softball.
At any age.
Pickleball, and he's doing
Yeah,
great.
at any age. That's awesome. Okay, so we've got 2 cups of sweet potato, and these are the orange sweet potato. I guess you could use the white sweet potato, but I would use the orange sweet potato. And then we're going to go with a half a cup of dates that have been soaking in a half a cup of almond milk. And you can use soy milk, you could use oat milk, you could use whatever kind of milk you want. And that again is just to add a little bit of moisture and a little bit of, and soaking them is going to soften them up. You want to soak your stuff before you do it. And you could probably even just soak them in water. I think that would be just fine. I've been tempted to try that, but just haven't done it yet. Now we're going to go with a teaspoon of vanilla. And then we're just going to go ahead and grind this up before we put our spices in. Also, weight loss is often a common thing that happens when you go on a whole foods, plant-based diet. Losing the weight, although some people really struggle still. And I always tell them, you know, nuts and seeds will, you know, decrease the amount of weight that you're losing if you're including those. Also, flours will increase that. Too much fruit could, especially blended. I had so many people, I used to do smoothies all the time, and people would say to me, I can't do smoothies. I put weight on when I drink smoothies. And I never believed it. And sure enough, when I ended up with some food sensitivities, like I said, and I like totally switched my kind of where I was going with my diet. I mean, I was still plant-based, but I got rid of the smoothies, and of course, I couldn't do nuts anymore for a while, and I was having a really hard time keeping my weight on. So I really believe, and what happens when you grind down fruit and you've got seeds and nuts in there, which I did, you're making those calories much more bioavailable, and that blended fruit is going to raise your blood sugar more so than when you're eating it, just eating it, you know, like berries or an apple or whatever. When you grind up anything, your body absorbs more of those calories, more of those fats, more of those sugars more easily when they're ground up and liquefied. Kind of like drinking apple juice over eating an apple. Okay, we're going to go ahead and add our spices, which is 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. No, 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. 2 teaspoons of cinnamon and a half a teaspoon of nutmeg. And I added my vanilla. And if you're wanting to do more of a pumpkin pie flavor, so I wondered about the sweet potato pie ingredients. I've made this quite a few times actually for several years. In fact, it's in one of my books. But I wondered about the sweet potato pie if it's supposed to be more like a pumpkin pie, like with the ginger and the cloves. So I looked up sweet potato pie recipes online, and most of them are just cinnamon and nutmeg. So that's indicative of a sweet potato pie rather than a pumpkin pie. But if you wanted to spice it up with your pumpkin pie spices, you totally could do that. The benefit of using sweet potato over pumpkin too is sweet potatoes are sweeter and you don't have to use as many dates. When I do a pumpkin pie, I use a full cup of dates. Okay, that's going to be good enough. We're going to wait till that. I don't think I need that food processor anymore for now. We're going to wait till the pie shell comes out of the oven. We've got 13 minutes still on that. Okay, let's do our mushroom gravy. So what we're going to do here, so on your recipe, it says to steam the cauliflower, florets, mushrooms, and thyme. Oh, I did change that. Okay, so I used to steam the cauliflower, florets separately, actually, yeah, and just do the mushrooms and the thyme in here, and then I decided to do it all together, and it works just fine. So what I'm going to do is add just a little bit of water in here because these mushrooms might stick right away, although I haven't turned that on. Oh, I have turned that on. So we're just going to add our mushrooms. We're doing our gravy. Okay, so we're going to add our mushrooms to our pan here. And then we are going to add our thyme. Only if we had more time. It's my one wish every day. More time, please. Oh, that's okay. It wasn't very funny. No. Okay, so this, I usually, okay, so sometimes I'll use, most of the time, I don't know, sometimes I'll use whole like a half of a head of cauliflower. And it's a little bit easier to just blend the cauliflower, because we want to keep, I like to keep a little bit of chunk in this, like some mushroom chunk in this gravy. And so using the whole cauliflower would be easier just to pull out the cauliflower florets and blend them with the other things that I'm going to show you I'm going to blend them with. But this is so convenient using this cauliflower rice. And this is what we're using for the mashed potatoes, along with potatoes, by the way. And it's what I'm using for the gravy. So instead of a half of a head of cauliflower, I'm using one package of this cauliflower rice. You can buy this at Costco. They're 4 bags just like this. So simple. I love blending cauliflower to make like I'll make a veggie rice dish, blend some cauliflower, pour that over it. Makes a wonderful gravy, as you'll see when we do this gravy. So I'm just going to go ahead and put this cauliflower just on top. And we're just going to let that steam. And then I'm going to scoop off the cauliflower as much as I can, and we're just going to just blend the cauliflower. Probably a little bit of the mushroom too, because we're not going to be able to keep that separated when you're doing the rice. If you're doing the florets, it's pretty easy to pull out just the florets, like I was saying. Okay, you go ahead and take that. All right, and we'll just put that on there like so, and just let that cook. Okay, let's see. We're going to go ahead and do our, I want to save the potatoes for the very last, because you know how it goes with potatoes. You don't want them cold. So let's throw this fruit salad together. Actually, we're going to do our cream. We're going to do our cream for our pie first. So I'll grab my blender. Push this off to the side. So we got to have some whipped cream for our pie, right? And we don't want to use Cool Whip, and we don't want to use like real cream, because real cream's a dairy product, and I really encourage people. I don't like to talk about things that we need to get rid of, because nobody wants to hear that. You know, we all love our stuff, and we don't want to be told we can't eat it. But dairy products are a problem in our society, and everybody's society, because it's what it is. It's the mammary secretions of a cow, and it's made to grow a little baby infant cow into a large calf. Those growth hormones stimulate your body's own growth hormones, and when we're adults, we don't need to grow anymore. And what happens is it's stimulating growth in cancer cells that you might have in your body that are kind of laying stagnant, and they're not doing anything. And you start taking dairy products and get that growth stimulating hormone. It's going to stimulate growth in cancer cells. Number one risk factor, or number one cause of hormonal cancers: breast cancer, prostate cancer. So also childhood asthma. Asthma is a real problem with dairy. Food allergies, rheumatoid arthritis. A lot of people that have arthritis situations, inflammation in their body, get rid of dairy products. A lot of times that inflammation will go away. Anyway, I'll not go on anymore about that. So we're going to do our cream for our pie. And it is again, we're going to do some nuts here with the cream and our salad dressing. We're going to do a 1/4 cup of cashews, about 8 dates, pitted dates, and a cup of sweet potato, white sweet potato. You want the white sweet potato. You could use the orange, I guess, but then you'd have orange cream for your orange pie. So we're just going to go ahead and put that in the bottom of our blender. Again, you want to soak those things so they'll blend up really creamy. And will you just rinse that off for me? And we're just going to put this sweet potato, and this is a cooked sweet potato. Well, I'll just use my hand. Just put that in there like that. And we're going to do a 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla. Oh, that was a 1/2 teaspoon, I'm sure. Okay, now we're probably going to need to add a little bit of water to this. I'll just take a little peeky at our cauliflower there. We're going to need to add a little bit of water probably. But we don't want to add too much, because I do want kind of a stiff cream for this. There's my tamper. right. So you rinse that off. Okay, so here's our cream for our pie. I'm going to grab a little bowl. Nice and creamy. I used to make a cream with just cashews and dates, and it was good. I'm actually doing that for our fruit salad, but this is way better because it's not all fat and sugar. Got that sweet potato in there. I think I've seen this recipe done, and I'd like to try it with just, in fact, they might have used like maple syrup instead of dates, but just with just a sweet potato, which would probably work fine. I think those fats just make it just a little bit more decadent and creamy. And this is a special occasion, you know, Thanksgiving and Christmas. They don't come around every year, so we can kind of splurge a little bit on this kind of thing.
That's a nice blender.
It is. So just a word about a blender. Thanks, Kayla. If you've been thinking about getting a Vitamix or a Blendtec and you really want one, but it's just so hard to spend $300 and whatever on a blender, right? I mean, it's a tough thing to do. But this thing's about 20 years old. If it's the same motor and everything, I have had to replace the canisters because they get kind of cruddy looking, and they will start leaking after a while, leaking oil. But it's definitely worth every penny. It's a major appliance. I use my blender as much or more than all my other appliances in my kitchen. I mean, it's a major appliance, but it works. I mean, if you're using it, it's very well worth the money for it. So if you can save your pennies or your dollars. Okay, let's see. Let's do our fruit salad. We got that pie coming out in a couple of minutes, in a few minutes, or the pie shell. Let's see. I'm going to need. I won't need that. Go there. So who is from Southern Utah? So do you know what a Dixie salad is? No? Nobody knows what a Dixie salad is. That must be like way old time. St. George, Dixie, whatever. Let's see, here's my chopper. Okay, Dixie salad is just a fruit salad that I think it's like something maybe the pioneers brought with them or something, this recipe, because it's just, in my family, it's just a Dixie salad. So I'm going to do that for you tonight. So it's got pomegranates. So you've got 2 cups of pomegranates. So you can use the sweet ones or the tart ones. These are the tart. And then I meant to have those cut up. And then we're going to do an apple. Let's see. Yeah, if you'll just slice those in half. Those are grapes. So an apple a day really does keep the doctor away. People who eat an apple a day have less oral, breast, colon, kidney cancers. The more apples, the less cancer. 20% lower risk of breast cancer. The benefits are in the skin. That they have powerful antioxidants in the skin. So you want to eat the skin. Buy organic. And I can find organic apples. It seems like there's always an organic apple on sale at Natural Grocer or somewhere. I can always find them about the same prices as conventional, or at the farmer's market. There is a farmer's market this Saturday at Vernon Wortham Park. There's a guy from up north that has, I hope he still has his apples. Anyway, yeah, go organic on your apples if possible. Apples are one of the Dirty Dozen. If you've heard of the Dirty Dozen in the Clean 15, this list is put out by the Environmental Working Group, EWG.org. And they have the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15. Apples are one of the Dirty Dozen, and it's just a list of the top 12 pesticide, fruits and vegetables that have the most pesticides on them. Okay, so I'm going to use my chopper to do this apple, and we've got this size, this larger blade that I've used for the onion and the mushrooms. And then we've got this smaller blade that I'm using for this salad. And that means stuff's cooking. That's good. Except you gotta pound on it. I'm gonna cut those apples in half. Whoop, there went one. Apples have been shown to lower cholesterol, lower type 2 diabetes. In fact, 28% lower risk with an apple a day of diabetes. There's our crust. Would you mind grabbing that out of the oven? There's some hot pads right here in this drawer. Let's see, we got 53 seconds left on our loaf too, which is great, and I didn't cover it, so we're gonna cover it when we cook it another 20 minutes. Wonderful. Look at that crust. Can the cameraman get up on that crust? Cameraman. We want it just a little bit brown. No, we're going to keep it like that because I'm going to pull off that cauliflower and just blend it. Okay. Let me hand me that spoon. And then we're going to put in those apples, and those apples were big apples. This made a lot of apples. Those 2 apples, huh? Oh yeah. Actually, you can just cover it. Just cover it with a cookie sheet. We're going to cover this with a cookie sheet. I should have covered it. It was supposed to be covered the first half hour, but we're going to cover it the last 20 minutes. So, and then we'll just go another 20 minutes on that. So 10 after it can come out.
April, do you have to put lemon juice or something for the apples?
Well, normally you would, but and I didn't even think about that. But I think because of the pomegranates are so high in oxidants, me stirring this in is going to keep those, because I can tell that the red from the pomegranates is already coating the apples. So I think that that's going to work. When I do a cranberry relish salad, which by the way, I've got a video up on my YouTube channel and on my website of cranapple relish salad, and it's with apples, cranberries, dates, walnuts. So good, so good, so good. Raw cranberries. Anyway, I highly recommend you trying that out. But anyway, I don't add lemon juice, and because of the cranberries, the apples don't turn brown. So I think I'm having that same effect on here. I didn't even think about that till you asked that. So okay, and then we're going to chop up some walnut or some pecans, and my big knife is over here. That's okay. Good. Okay. So we've got a half a cup of pecans, and you can use walnuts if you'd like in this. That's another nut that's a common allergy nut, is walnuts. Walnuts are actually healthier. They have arginine, which is really great for blood vessels, for helping with, the effects of clogged arteries and heart disease. Want to be really careful. I know Dr. Esselstyn, although he tells them absolutely no nuts, no seeds, no avocados, no oils, no nothing until you get those arteries cleaned out. Once they're cleaned out, then you can start adding very small amounts, like a half of a walnut. In fact, there are studies that show a half of a walnut decreases inflammation. I can't remember the percentage, but it was quite a bit for that half a walnut. It doesn't take much. Walnuts are all nuts are in a hard shell for a reason. We don't need to eat very many of them. In fact, if whoever didn't crack them open, put them in a bag on the shelf at the grocery store, we wouldn't be eating nearly as much as we do. I'm speaking for myself. Because I used to go through the nuts like crazy. All right. And I don't think we're going to need that anymore. We've got those grapes. Okay, back to our salad. Let's see. So we've got our pomegranates, apples, grapes, or banana or other fruit. You can use any kind of fruit in this. We've got our pecans. So our dressing, and because I'm blending so much already, the cashew, date, cream thing, I went ahead and blend this ahead of time just because you've seen me blend enough, and I'm not even done yet. So we're just going to go ahead and pour this on our salad, and you can leave it off. I mean, this would be great without the cream on it, but this cream is kind of the Dixie salad thing. I think it normally uses like Cool Whip. And you can just use however much you want. And we're going to go ahead and throw in those grapes. We've got 2 cups of grapes. These are seedless red flame grapes. Let's see. Okay. And by the way, I have a pie made already that we're going to cut. So if you're worrying about me getting that pie in the oven, don't worry. That's one thing I'm on top of. Okay, this needs to go off the burner. Okay, so there is our Dixie salad. All right, we'll just put that right there. Okay, we're going to do our pie. Okay, that's hot. What?
Do you need oven mitts?
No, not yet. Okay, we're going to just take our pie innards right here and pull out our blade. Is my green? Oh, there it is right there, right under my nose. And we're just going to transfer this to our pie pan. So the pie that we're serving, I put it in an 8x8 cake pan, and that's just mainly because it's much easier to cut for a large number of people. And so the crust is actually going to be thicker because the bottom is much smaller. So the crust is pretty thick, and it's a pretty dense crust. So keep that in mind. I mean, it's like I say, it's a pretty dense crust. I really like it, but it is pretty dense with that. And I had thoughts of just decreasing the amount that I was making so it wasn't so thick, but it'll be fine. I didn't think about it until it was too late. No sugar at all, just your dates.
And what are your thoughts on some of maybe the sugar substitutes like stevia and other?
Stevia is good to put in like your coffee or your tea or something like that, but to use it in desserts, like again, it's the dose that's the problem with any sweetener. Even maple syrup. I mean, if you're using maple syrup, it's such a concentrated sweetener that you probably would only need to, and I only used a half a cup of dates, so you could use some maple syrup in this. In fact, you could. That would be totally fine. I'm such a, kind of a perfectionist when it comes to my diet, which might be bad, but anyway, nonetheless, I've had issues with sugar. Like, I'm a sugaraholic. I admit it. I have a really hard time staying away from sweets, and so I want to make them as sweet, as healthy as I can, and don't want to have that. I get that. I can feel it. Like if I eat too much sugar, I can just feel it. It raises my blood sugar. So any kind of processed sweetener like that is just not good for me. So I do much better with the whole food sweeteners, and that's because there's fiber. When there's fiber in foods, whether it's an oily food like a nut or a seed, or if it's a sugar, those fibers help to bind some of those sugars and some of those fats to the fiber, and it doesn't get absorbed into your body as easily. So back to the oil thing. When you're eating free oils, this is going in the oven for 20 minutes, 300 degrees. And that doesn't really need to be baked. I mean, there's nothing bad in it. You could get a spoon and just eat the pudding the way it was, the filling. But the baking, it's just going to concentrate it and make it so it cuts nice and all that. So when you eat a nut or a seed as opposed to oil, you've got those fibers intact with those nuts and those seeds. And so your body's going to send a lot of those fats that are bound to the fibers into the toilet bowl where they need to go. We don't want those fats getting stored on our body. When we use free oils, it goes into our fat cells much, much easier, much, much quicker. Okay, so we're going to do our gravy. And we're going to try to scoop some of this cauliflower into our blender along with some other things here. We're right at 7 o'clock. That's good timing. Okay, so we are going to go with a spoon. Do we have a large spoon? Or kind of a large spoon? I had one. Oh, I have it in the, here, I'll just use this. Oh, there we go. Okay, so we're just going to scoop out some of this cauliflower, and we'll probably get some of the mushrooms as well. Again, back to the idea, if you're using florets, you're going to be able to do this much easier. And you can blend this entire pan right here. You can blend it all into a nice smooth mushroom gravy. You don't need to have the mushroom chunks. I just like to have a little bit of the mushroom chunks. But we're going to have a little cauliflower and mushroom chunks. But we're putting this gravy is actually for the loaf. So of course you've got all the chunk with the loaf, so it's not going to really matter. Okay, so to this cauliflower, steamed cauliflower, we're going to add some seasoning, some onion powder, garlic powder, and salt. I think a teaspoon, half a teaspoon, and a quarter teaspoon. And then we're going to add, again, we're going to add some more fats, whole food fats. We're going to add some sunflower seeds, and only about a quarter cup. And we're going to add some nutritional yeast. Are you guys familiar with nutritional yeast? It's kind of got a cheesy flavor. People like to use it when they're trying to get off cheese, which I highly recommend. Using it, people put it on pizza. They'll put it on their popcorn. They make cheese sauces out of it. And there's that right there. You can go ahead and rinse that out. I'm done with it. Natural Grocer carries it. You can buy it online. Okay, is my tamper over there too? My blender tamper? Oh yeah, there it is right there. So we're going to add that nutritional yeast. So I don't know if the camera guy can get a little close up on that. Anyway, it's kind of a cheesy, yellow, flaky. It grows on molasses actually. But people love it. If they really are trying to get off dairy, off cheese, it's a really nice replacement. I mean, head-to-head cheese, nutritional yeast, no. But if you really wanted to get off cheese, it's very helpful. Okay, so we're going to add that. It's 1/3 of a cup. And just go ahead and blend that. And we're just adding water to make it the consistency you want. All right. And there's our gravy. So the main thing that I want to, introduce to you is the whole blending of the cauliflower to make creamy kind of things. And, it might lend a little bit of the cauliflower flavor, but you can, of course you can make this the way you like it, add whatever herbs you want to this. You could add, a little bit of tamari or, some, I've seen recipes that use miso, which is the soy paste, fermented soy paste, just for flavoring. Just make it the way you like it. And we'll just stir that. And I'm going to be doing that again, but we can just leave that the way it is because we're just going to do our potatoes. We don't need to wash it. So, okay, so we just got our gravy there, and we will just keep that hot on the burner. That might need a little bit more water, actually. Here. Okay, now we're going to do our potatoes, mashed potatoes. Okay, who's had cauliflower mashed potatoes? Just cauliflower. Did you like them? Were they similar to mashed potatoes? Good enough for you? Okay. They wouldn't fly with my family. Just cauliflower mashed potatoes, they would not fly. So I decided to come up with a happy medium, half potatoes, half cauliflower. Works great. So what I do is I steam 2 heads of cauliflower, and again, we're going the easy route, and we're going to do 3 bags of the cauliflower rice. I've already got that cooked. Put that on there. So we are going to scoop this out into our blender jar. And we are going to blend with the cauliflower some more fats. We're going to blend some cashews to make this nice and buttery. This is our butter. We're using a whole food butter. You can do a half a cup if you want to go less, but this is making quite a lot of potatoes, so this just, my family likes this, so it kind of helps, with the whole cauliflower thing. Makes it nice and rich, creamy. Let's see, you know what, I'm going to not blend that whole thing because this is pretty hard on the blender. I don't want to put too much water in this. There's already quite a bit of water in that cauliflower because we don't want to make our potatoes too runny. This is going to take the place of our cream and butter. Okay, and we're going to do the rest. So if you don't have a strong blender, you're going to want to blend your cashews in some water and make a cream, and then blend your cauliflower in batches. And we're just going to add that right to, oh lovely, right to our pot there, and then I'm going to add the rest of the cauliflower. I'll probably need that tamper again, maybe. I don't have nearly as much going on here. Yeah, I've made these completely without the nuts, and they're still really good. So just when you're trying to please the masses, you know, and the masses don't care if it's vegan or vegetarian or healthy, or they just want their holiday meal, right? And this works well. Okay. Okay. With the holiday dishes comes the holiday mess, right? Thank goodness for Kayla over here. If it wasn't for her, I'd be here till midnight cleaning up. Okay. Just gonna dump those in there. Is this it? I think we got everything done. And that loaf is going to be out of the oven in a minute. So we're going to be in good shape. And it's good, really good. I think I probably mentioned this already, but to let that loaf sit and cool at least a little bit and firm up a bit, because after it sits a while, it'll cut really well. Coming right out of the oven, it kind of has a tendency to fall apart. Oh, good job. Nice. Okay, so we can use beaters, we can use a stick blender, or we can just use the old-fashioned potato masher. And of course, if you like smooth potatoes, you want to use your blender. I kind of like chunky potatoes myself. Potatoes are a great food, by the way. A lot of people worry about the carbohydrates and the starches in potatoes. High starch means lots of energy. It's what we put on the potato that makes it bad. The butter, sour cream, oil. That's probably the loaf. So eat your potatoes. Don't be afraid of potatoes. Just be careful what you put on them. I didn't show you the potatoes, how I cut them. I cut them with my chopper. So if they're small potatoes, I can put the whole potato on there and just smash it down. These were a little bit bigger, so I cut them in half and just use that to chop them. And they make great little, if you can put the whole potato on there if it's not too big, they make great little French fries. Put them in the oven on some parchment paper at about 425, season them with some seasonings. They make great French fries. I guess they wouldn't be French fries, oven fries. Super, super good. Wonderful. Okay, we'll see if we can stir that a bit. Get those. It's looking good. Oh, let's see. We didn't put any salt. We are going to put some salt in here. Yeah. And I was going to use but I'm going to go with about a teaspoon. Okay. Those are looking good, guys. Roasting, like in an oven roasting. Just don't use oil. Yeah, of course it's going to be a little bit different, but they're still good. I mean, I think they're still great. I usually, you know, have a ketchup that I, you know, dip them in, or yeah, I think they're great. It's, you know, you kind of just got to get used to that, you know, the less fat, but your taste buds adapt really easily.